my very dear colleagues and friends, on behalf of the Department of Political Science located within the South Asia Institute, let me say what a great pleasure it is for us to have you all grace our first big event after I joined as the Chair of Political Science of South Asia in this university. Many had opined that India will disintegrate after 1947. The decades of the 1960s and the 1970s witnessed poverty amidst dismal economic growth. India, it seemed, was tottering towards collapse during the financial crisis of 1991. That India today presents a paradox. The world's most populous democracy, with the third largest gross development product in purchasing power parity terms, growing more rapidly than all the major economies of the world, and yet it is home to the largest number of poor people than any country of the world. Poverty and inequality pose a considerable challenge. I think a very important question that India needs to resolve is whether democracy and participation will show the way. Our department is deeply interested in political, technocratic, and social interactions that produce the capacity or the lack thereof of the Indian state to deliver. This workshop will engender wide-ranging discussions on topics as diverse as the right to information, employment guarantees and the right to work, the telecommunications revolution in India, corruption and crony capitalism, and the approach of the left and the somewhat more right-wing parties in addressing the developmental riddles that plague India. Will India's democracy move on by accepting democracy, or will it try to discipline and homogenize the nation in its quest to govern well? We are delighted, fortunate, and somewhat flabbergasted that some of the finest makers of modern India are with us today. Heidelberg has inspired a rare group of politicians, activists, and civil servants who will present before us the reality of India through their eyes. I must also mention that in our midst, there are many colleagues who delight us no end. Professor Subrata Kumar Mitra, my predecessor, is on the podium, and we are very happy that he could come all the way from Singapore to be with us. Our first session is being chaired by our Professor of Development Economics, Professor Stefan Slona, and tomorrow the sessions will be chaired by none other than the very famous, and all of us respect him, Professor Emeritus of History, Professor Dietmar Rodemund, Professor William Sachs, our Chair of Anthropology, and Professor Aurel Crosson from the Institute of Politics. I must mention that ours is the only institute in the world which has 7 departments, ranging from classical Indology, modern languages, history, anthropology, geography, development economics, to our very own political science. Like India, we are diverse, and we believe that this diversity is good for us all. It is also heartening to note that colleagues and students from Heidelberg, Hyderabad, the Technical University in München, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the Dublin City University, the Banaras Hindu University, the University of Warsaw, from various foundations, and the Consul Generals of India and Sri Lanka, along with students from the Heidelberg International School and friends from Heidelberg and Neckar-Gemund, have found our workshop to be stimulating enough to spend a Sunday morning with us. This workshop, I must mention, is funded by a generous startup grant that the rector gave me to begin my life in Heidelberg. and also in some ways by a European Union grant for launching a global PhD, a pan-European PhD on global India, Horizon 2020, and a small grant that we won from the Heidelberg Field of Focus Area 4. We are happy to report that Heidelberg is part of a network of 7 European institutions that have launched a pan-European PhD program on the theme Global India as part of its Marie Curie program. As part of the Marie Curie program, my department will be working with PhD scholars in the areas of redistributive politics and climate change politics. It's heartening, therefore, that our partners from Dublin and Warsaw are present with us today. The International Wissenschaftsforum Heidelberg and its director, Dr. Birnbaum, have worked very closely with my colleagues to produce this event. And before I hand over the chair to Professor Stefan Kiefer, my friends from India, led by Shankarji, who mobilized many people in the villages of Rajasthan, is going to present us something which is completely improvised. Even I do not know what it is going to be about. So with that expectation, Shankarji, the floor is yours, and then Stefan.
So just a half-minute introduction to introduce something to improvise in the midst of German precision and completely unscheduled. But it's the nature of what people like Shankar do and what makes movements possible and alive in countries like India where extraordinary articulation comes out. This is a song from the Right to Information Movement. Agna, please come. No, please come here. No, come here. Do it together, Soumya. Please come. So many actually know this song who are sitting here because so many have been part of this movement, but it's improvised and changed and we won't take longer and we'll start immediately. It's called You Have to All Join In. Because we can't talk about participating in democracy if you don't join in. So
I'm so worried. I'm so worried because you are discussing about me, my poverty and my condition. I'm not alone. Lot of person with me. I'm so worried because you are the big word, transparency, accountability, poverty, and this long word. Many times you are discussing with me about me. Sorry, I know very well, don't know very well English. My English is so poor. So my broken English is coming in my mouth. So one song, what I want.
So this song, what you have to say is, we do not want, whether or not you want it. And it's a kind of a cry from the Right to Information Movement of what do ordinary people actually want. And it was born at the time in 1996 in the first 40-day sit-in in a town called Byavar, when people were saying, what exactly is this right to information that all these village people have got together to demand? So what is it we want, do not want, and finally, what do we want? So we want you to please join in to begin with.
This song is actually, nowadays you have social media, that in those days we just had different kind of communication, and this went viral. And this conveyed the idea of a law much better than many of our discourses and our discussions and our public speeches did. So
the song is Main Nahi Manga, but if you can just say we do not want.
तो आप मुझे उम्मीद है कि आप साथ देंगे इस गाने में. मैं कुछ चीजों का नाम लूंगा, आपको बोलना है.
We do not want.
We do not
want.
Gold, silver.
We do not want.
Correct. Big castle.
We do not want.
Palace house.
We do not want.
Car in the garage.
We do not want.
अरे gold, silver, big castle, palace house, car in the garage, dog in the car, leash on the dog, fancy house with many veranda, pot in the veranda, and so many cribs, Toyota car, Mercedes car, Hero Honda, TV cooler. What do you want?
We are poor people, we have nothing to eat. We are from a state like Rajasthan, we have nothing to eat.
Lunch, dinner,
Many manga,
breakfast,
many manga,
murg masala,
many manga, tandoori chicken,
many manga,
boiled egg,
many manga,
uncle chips,
many manga,
malai kofta,
many manga,
caviar savior,
many manga,
hot jalebi,
many manga,
ice cream,
many manga,
chocolate pastry.
many manga.
Give me it.
Nahi, bhai, there's nothing to drink, it's
Oh,
a state,
nothing
it's a
to
desert
drink.
state.
Then you go and buy Pepsi Cola,
Many manga,
Coca Cola,
Many manga,
Campa Cola,
many manga,
Mango Fruity,
many manga,
beer syrup,
many manga,
wine side,
many manga,
champagne, champagne.
many manga.
Then what do you want here?
we want something to eat, we have no work, no food.
Oh, you want work. रोजी रोटी
मैं मांगा,
अब आपको बोल रहा मैं मांगा रोजी रोटी
मैं मांगा,
टीचर इन स्कूल
मैं मांगा,
फ्री एजुकेशन
मैं मांगा,
इक्वल एजुकेशन
मैं मांगा,
डॉक्टर इन हॉस्पिटल
मैं मांगा,
फ्री मेडिसिन
मैं मांगा,
डेवलपमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर
We want.
नेशनल एक्सपेंडिचर
मैं मांगा,
जीवन एक्सपेंडिचर
मैं मांगा,
वर्ल्ड बैंक एक्सपेंडिचर
मैं मांगा,
एनजीओ एक्सपेंडिचर
मैं मांगा,
जियो एक्सपेंडिचर
मैं मांगा,
आवर मनी आवर अकाउंट्स
We want. अब डालो लास्ट वाला हिंदी में
आप मैं मांगा,
रोजी रोटी मैं मांगा था हिंदी में गाओ ना रोजी रोटी मैं मांगा
आपका गड़बड़ हो गया और रोजी रोटी
मैं मांगा,
पूरी मजदूरी
मैं मांगा,
स्कूल में पढ़ाई
मैं मांगा,
अस्पताल में दवाई
मैं मांगा,
पंचायत को खर्चो
मैं मांगा,
और लेखो जोखो
मैं मांगा,
विकास का रुपया
मैं मांगा,
बिजली को खर्चो
मैं मांगा,
सड़कों को खर्चो
मैं मांगा,
राशन को खर्चो
मैं मांगा,
खर्चा को हिसाब
मैं मांगा,
सूचना को अधिकार
मैं मांगा.
I have the pleasure and the privilege to chair the first session here. Let me start by pointing out that this is really a special pleasure and privilege to me, since it's the inaugural conference of Rahul Mukherjee as chair of political science in our institute, the South Asia Institute. He's been with us now for 1 year, and for me it's been a great time with a great new colleague. And I'm even more pleased to have Rahul's predecessor around, who's Subrata Mitra, who's been as much a nice colleague. So it's been a nice colleague before and now, and only 1 year of interim that I had to suffer through. So I just want to introduce the speakers now. So the first speaker is going to be Subrata Mitra. He's been the chair of political science in our institute since 1994, with a short interruption. And he really has put political science at the South Asia Institute on the global map of the discipline, I may say. He has pursued and is pursuing a very diverse research agenda, including themes like citizenship, comparative politics, federalism, governance, political parties, and state formation in South Asia. Personally, I've also found it a nice feature of his methodological approach that he's a follower of the rational choice paradigm. He's supervised 29 dissertations at our institutes in several fields, and his graduates hold now influential positions in academia and political and societal institutions worldwide. Several works of his are classical references in the field of political science regarding South Asia, such as Politics in India and the Puzzle of India's Governance, published at Routledge, and the Political and Economic Dictionary of South Asia. He has also started the Heidelberg papers, which are now continued by Rahul Mukherjee, a working paper series where frontier research is disseminated sort of before it goes into the tedious process of peer review. So for those who are not familiar with these series, consider submitting your latest work to the Heidelberg paper. The format is going to be that we have 30 minutes for each speaker, and then there shall be almost an hour of discussion with a podium. So I would request not to ask questions after each speaker, but to collect the questions and have a joint discussion after the three presentations. So please, if you have pressing questions, note them down, and we'll collect them after the first speaker.
Professor Krona, Professor Mukherjee, distinguished colleagues from South Asia Institute, from the Heidelberg cluster, and looking around from all over the world, students, ladies and gentlemen. It does feel a little bit like I've been asleep and suddenly woke up and nothing has changed. 22 years ago, we had in this room my inaugural conference, and with the help of Professor Rothermund, we had raised enough money to bring excellent people from all over the world like now. One big difference, we had the conference dinner next to the house room, a little mansion which did belong once to a professor, those days professors had used places, but the married people who had used places. And we did put it all together in a book called Legitimacy and Conflict in South Asia. I had picked at the time these two polar opposites that drive politics everywhere, and we have lived off it all these years. I would start this conversation with my most sincere thanks to Rahul for giving me the honor of holding this keynote address. I would, before I go into the talk proper, I would like to make 3 points. Most of you are creatures of conferences. Either you have been to one or you're getting ready to go to another. So, if I didn't tell you, you would take this conference just as one among many. It's not. In Heidelberg ritual, this conference marks the start of a new regime in a particular discipline, in this case the discipline of political science of South Asia. In a conference of this kind, this inaugural conference, the structure is set for, we like people to come to stay for the rest of the tenure of the professor. I've had 20 good years here, and from all the science I get, predictions are the most difficult thing to do in political science. I'll give you another 20 years. So that's a stretch of 40 years we are talking about. And this is why the conversation has great significance for me and for my discipline. The second point I'd like to make is, well, I did get the feeling of being here, of this French expression, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose, more it changes, more it remains the same, but it's not. I would not have started my conference with this superb evocation of life out there at the cutting edge. This is new. This conference has a novelty that my conferences did not have. In this conference, we have actors and observers, people who give their lives to theory, and people who give their lives to politics out there together. Under the same conditions, we will have limited time and we'll have to take questions. The idea is we will work over the next 2 days to look for a level playing field where owners of knowledge from different fields of political life can share. This is important because in political science of South Asia, often we are like poor cousins who have to pick up discarded clothes and shoes from our Western colleagues and use those concepts to understand ourselves. And when those shoes don't fit, it's a little difficult to walk with other people's shoes, we nevertheless stumble on. There are moments when you would want to have your own shoes. This is what, just before getting the chair here, I read something by Professor Wagner, who was talking about Tiananmen in a book edited by Jim Maynor. And he had told us at the time that the real problem in Tiananmen was actually an epistemological problem. The two sides could not understand one another. They couldn't define one another. And I was thinking not of Tiananmen, but Ayodhya. Today I would think of Kashmir and Sukuma forest and other fault lines of India, where the two sides can't quite understand one another. If you are standing in Babri, facing those fanatics, the soldiers think they are here to protect the state. And fanatics think these are colonial soldiers, they are stopping us from that which is sacred to us. So they could not have shared definition of one another. This is what Susan Rudolph, who actually had come to my conference, had said in 1987, and later she developed it into a theory called the imperialism of categories. What happens when you use categories born out of other people's lives to understand your life? There, political scientists start as analysts and very quickly become moralists. That is what we have fought against for 20 years. And this is why my inaugural address was on culture and rationality. How do you understand an organic culture in terms of methodological individualism? And what happens to both as they get a little bit soiled? Those are the PhDs I've supervised. And this is why this conference brings back to me something I could not do, which is to have a closer relationship with the world out there. Rahul is coming from that background. I'm sure we'll do it. The third point I want to make is for visitors to Heidelberg. It's a beautiful place. 1 million tourists come here. We live off that income. It's not much of a business here. But more than that, if you're an academic, in this city, you live with the presence of legends. Living legends like Rudolf Wagner and Dietmar Hortemund and other legends who are undead and who will remain undead. Hegel, who was a student here, who told us that what matters is not your corner of the world, but the whole world, the Weltgeist. And Max Weber, who insisted, no, not just the forest, learn to get to know the trees and branches and measure. This is where one cannot think of South Asia only as South Asia. You are obliged to think of South Asia as part of a much larger world. And even harder, think of the South Asian ways of looking at the world. This is what my colleagues do in South Asia. And that is the kind of challenge that students of this discipline must face. To think of the world in terms of the context and contextualize the context in terms of time and space which is unbounded. This is the reason I've chosen a topic for this conversation, which for me has been a window to look at this time-space comparison of order that I've been talking about. It actually takes me back by 45 years. I was then finishing my MPhil at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and I had a teacher who was both inspired and inspiring, Sudipta Koviraj, who had given us a taste for political theory. He of course had his pet Gramsci and Hegel and Marx, but he did also talk about Max Weber, and Max Weber had intrigued me much more than others because of two reasons. Weber said, when you are going to analyze politics, ask yourself, why do people do what they do? There are times when you do things, because if you don't do them, you would be less than who you think in your own eyes, because that's a deeply seated value, you have got to do it. He also said, at the end of the day, the job of the political scientists, of the social scientists, is just to understand, verstehen. The self must understand the other. Now, I was intrigued by both, only I wanted to know why doesn't it work all the time? The state has a monopoly of legitimate violence, but why is the state also sometimes seen as a criminal? So, those were the things that used to work me up in my MPhil, and naturally I was looking for a place to do a PhD. Number one on my list was Heidelberg. I wrote to the professor in the political science in the South East Institute, and I also wrote all over the world. And 4 American universities gave me fellowships. Heidelberg didn't give me a place to study. Heidelberg actually didn't even reply to my letter. There's no need to go into that story. I now know why not. But the fact of the matter is, I did go to Rochester to pursue the same dream. Find a method to understand why is the order sometimes in some places, not all the time, all the places. And got out of Rochester, I think, an excellent bone structure of a kind Fleisch auf dem Knochen, no flesh. Because in Rochester you don't do real field work, unlike in Chicago or maybe in Columbia. And so we do laboratory games. This is what Heidelberg did to me. That was the gift of Heidelberg, to work in the South Asian Institute with professors who define the upper limits of history, economics, geography, social geography, various disciplines, anthropology, forced me to think through numbers and go towards meaning. That would have been the beginning of the end, but I'm a bloody-minded rational choice theorist, I have been told, but you can't measure, you can't really talk about, because then you don't know if you're right or wrong. In fact, you don't know what you're talking about. So you have to measure, you have to compare, you have to generalize. That I could hold on to, and I could hold on to it for 20 years. So after 20 years, when I gave my closing lecture, I turned the corner again, because then I talked about integration and anxiety in Indian politics. Why is it that democracy and the market, which integrate, which establish a common language, a common currency, also make some people anxious? Those are the people you saw here before, we don't want. That's what they say. Or, why is it that the power of the majority might turn the minority a little bit anxious, because the majority, having given one mandate, might use that mandate to do other things. This is where I thought I had found the dark face of politics, and I leave it to my successor to do something about that. So, this conversation is actually a lot of my past, but I'm also moving towards the future, and that I'm doing here in terms of the following forms. I will quickly talk about the puzzle of governance. Governance, as I understand it, is doing things according to the norm, normally measured in terms of violent deaths per million, that's Huntington, or number of riots per million, that's Kohli. I use both. And another way of measuring this is to ask, in your opinion, is the state of law and order better than before, worse than before, or hasn't it changed? And those are the two techniques I use to measure. And the puzzle was, why does it vary? I would then talk about the model I developed, the dynamic neuroinstitutional model of democratic governance, and I would then go on to derive the hypothesis I've used, and then I'll talk a little about why I have now chosen to go from the macro level of India to the regions. That was one of the things that attracted me to Singapore, not just because it is the island state itself is a multiple society, but it gives me that proximity to South Asia, which I did have from Heidelberg. And second, you can do in Singapore what you cannot do in South Asia, which is to talk about South Asia. In South Asia, of course, you talk about India and Pakistan and other things. But the totality you could see from Singapore. And you can hop over to Bihar, which is what I've just done, or to Tripura, or Bengal. So I thought I would use the opportunity of being there to look once again at India, but at the level of the micro-arenas. And those are the three difficult states I've chosen. I call them difficult because they've all had their problems of governance like Naxalites, or for that matter in Tripura tribal conflict, and various kinds of movements. The three have been ruled for a long time by parties other than the one in Delhi, and still they are part of India, and still orderly rule goes on. So how does one look at the old model in terms of new data, and what can one generalize from it, is how I'm formulating it. The whole thing started with a discovery of a counterfactual. The thick curve that you see going down, actually in Atul Kohli's work, one of the best known pieces of research on the crisis of governance in India, Atul thought governance in India would be going down. The curve measures the level of non-governance, and that was the prediction he had made. When I started my work, I found that instead of governance going down, it was actually going up. So why is it the prediction that was made by Atul Kohli, published by Cambridge, why didn't it come true? I then said, what is Atul Kohli drawing on? Atul Kohli was drawing on a generalization made by none other than Huntington, and it was those days a little bit like a law, that if you give an opportunity to post-colonial societies to decide their politics democratically, they'll fail. And that's how it was. That expectations will go up, state capacity will not, and the gap will destroy the legitimacy of modern institutions. And India was meant to be the exception. But why India was so exceptional was not explained by Garrett or Huntington. I thought I'll attempt that. And I did that by finding a level where state and society talk to one another. In Huntington, it's a mechanical model. State capacity goes down and people rise in rebellion and they destroy the institutions. But what if, between the modern state and traditional society, there are culture brokers who understand this as well as that? Now, does that produce hybrid categories of politics and institutions where the two can actually talk to one another? That which was not possible in Tiananmen or Ayodhya might become possible if you have those intermediaries. The way it is happening right now in France. There also two sides who could not quite talk to each other in the television studio are talking in terms of ordinary people deciding which way to go. So if the hypothesis is, if there are such people, then they would become two-way interpreters and culture brokers. The Gaon Ka Neta, that was one of my first discovery, understand the city outside the village, but they also understand their village. They become the fixers. And these fixers start at the bottom level of the pyramid and to the osmosis called elections to the center, to the states. In the village that I had studied, I counted something like 70 different kinds of elections that go on. Primary school committee, minor school committee, high school committee, Mahila committee, this committee, that committee. These elections are a method of identifying people who matter, social elites, giving them a new status of political elites and pushing them up. The lift which brings them up brings down on the return trip people who used to be important, notable, are no longer important. And this is how constantly the elite space is replenished with people coming up. And these people coming up remember where they were and what life is like that out there, because that is why they have been elected, and that is why they have the mandate, and that's the connectivity. So what they do is to develop policies that somehow pull together the law and order management, strategic reform, constitutional incorporation of values, and judicialization of dispute in creating new norms. And those things intervene here and change the structure. Otherwise, structural change like decolonization would have simply produced social inequality, relative deprivation, ethnic identity mobilization, conflict, and end. So this recursive model was for me the basis of my inquiries. I'll make a little digression here to explain why this model connects to politics anywhere. Now, if you are thinking about politics anywhere, you're thinking about political transactions, where two people are sort of dealing with one another, and both of them know what the norms or what the rules are, and what they're entitled to under those rules. So, if you're thinking about two people, one owns the land, the other works for him, deciding to cultivate this piece of land, both would know under the rules what they're entitled to and what they can get. For very simple demonstration, I'm assuming equal shares. If they go about their work properly, crops will be cultivated and each will get its share. But each person knows that there is profit to be made by cheating. The landlord can cheat by demanding things that he shouldn't. The tenant may cheat by selling off part of the crop before they run. And this cheating would produce a little bit of profit for each of them. The point about politics is the decisions are made in your mind. There is a wall of separation between you and the other. Now, this is the wall of separation. They are not talking to one another. So each would therefore unilaterally cheat, hoping to get a little more, and the other person also would think the same way. And they both get on with this cheating game. They would hope to be individually better off, but they will not be, because crops will not be cultivated and there will be in fact nothing to gain. That's a long-term iterative possibility. But people are not like that, and that's why one ends up in what is called a suboptimal outcome or a business dilemma situation. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is, if you are an elite decision maker, you want to bring the world here, where it will be orderly, and not there, which is anarchy. How do you do that? You do that by finding a way to ban cheating, and that's the Hobbesian solution. If you cheat, you die, or you are penalized such a way that you not want to do it again. And that is how the additional gain will be made either zero or worse, and then order will come. That is the basis of a general model and would apply anywhere. And that is how I get my hypothesis in the Indian case. I'm going to speed up a little because we'll be running out of time soon. I will speed up. So, the 6 hypotheses are saying, make rebels into stakeholders, create new arenas. Village panchayats should be dominated by poor people. So, start a new arena called a cooperative, where you can buy your way in, and you have to have a certain amount of wealth. So you can't win in the political arena, you will win in the cooperative arena. So multiply arenas so that everyone feels that he can win somewhere. And elite recruitment, I've already described it, the process of bringing in new people. Law and order management, look, I'm not talking about just a big state, because no state can have as many men, as many policemen and women as men, and if it did, who will police the police? So what you do is to develop, internalize the sense of self-policing. Similarly, social control. You can't have the police controlling you all the time. Social control is done through trust, shared norms, and social networks that result from institutional arrangements that enhance governance. Strategic reform is effective social and economic reforms that it's not like flood irrigation but drip irrigation. You reform exactly that which matters. You understand why triple talaq will get you a few Muslim women votes, even if you are a Hindu nationalist party. Why giving a bicycle to the girl child will bring in a lot more voters and supporters. So identify those little niches. I mean, I'm from Odisha, and we have always known that the first war of independence was fought not in 1857 by the Paika Vidroha, uprising of the Paikas. That's Surendra Sai from Sambapur fought against the British And Bhima Bhoi, the untouchable, had written the first Oriya Mahabharata. I mean, it was known all along. Why does it take an Amit Shah to make political capital out of it? This is what I call political intelligence, and intelligent elites understand where they should really interest and do something about it. Secularizing governance is the most important unstated parameter of governance. I mean, in the 50s, people killed or died for language in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, as well as in Tamil Nadu. Why is it that the Tamils went on in 62 to raise money to fight the Chinese? Where is Tamil Nadu? Where are the Chinese? What happened? This is the second Weberian argument. Transform order into a value. Because everyone has something sacred, which he will not allow you to touch without his permission. Your own dignity, that of your loved ones, that of your gods, are those aspects of life. So if you raise order to a value, that would take away from politics the urge to kill or die for. Because, you see, at the end of the day, modern political science is based on this discovery of Hobbes, that people who try to protect life at any cost, they'll give up a bit of their self-help, so that the Leviathan would be the one holding the monopoly of legitimate violence. What if someone says, I am in my right mind, I'm not mad, but I want to kill, I want to die for what I believe in. When politics becomes that, when you have young men bearing their chests, telling soldiers in Kashmir, come shoot, then Hobbesian political science doesn't work. We are thinking about a post-Hobbesian political science, like the political science of South Asia should be aiming at. And that is the model I applied. I will not go into the findings. What I'll do instead is to quickly go to the next level. The original model had order, welfare, identity as the core variables. I now think when you go to the regional level, what matters is not just the basic Indian laws, but also what happens at the state level, how federalization takes a local shape, and what kind of power sharing goes on, which again makes stakeholders out of rebels, and what constitutional reforms are being done at the state level. If all these things are added up, then the result will be governance. And that is being applied to the 3 Indian states. Let me quickly take you through them. I have just been to Bihar and as part of investigation there and found what policies of Nitish Kumar have come out, like reservation of seats for extremely backward classes. Another discovery, women in local panchayats. You won't believe how hard it has been for some people to have total prohibition in Bihar, and how women bless Nitish Kumar for prohibition. The man comes at the end of the day drunk, beats you to get food, and there is no food. But now, these things do make a difference. The alcohol ban, sharp nischay, and volunteer-driven initiatives, which Nitish Kumar has taken to the voters, and the results have been public service indicators, like percentage of population below poverty has gone down, birth rates have gone down, infant mortality has gone down, literacy has gone up, ease of doing business in Bihar has also gone up. Where I don't find corroboration is in the next one. Incidents of murder in Bihar have gone down, but incidents of riots have gone up. And that's where I don't quite understand why Nitish's Bihar has not also brought the riots down. This is a very much work in progress, and I've got a questionnaire which I'll be happy to share with some of you to get your inputs. I will now quickly turn to Bengal. I had a wonderful conversation yesterday with the former Minister of Revenue, Mr. Suryakant Mishra, and I've learned a few things about Bengal that certainly have shown me why the goddess of Ma Mati O Manush, Mamata, gets this new mantra, gets support. The returning of 400 acres of land to Shingle farmers. The question the farmer is asking is, what is in it for me? Will my son get a job in this new factory which is coming up? So the symbolics of land have become much more important than the actual materiality of land and materiality of industrialization, for which the CPM had an excellent plan. Now, why have these non-tangibles come in, and what effects are they having in terms of public service indicators? Once again, percentage of people below the poverty line has gone down, birth rates have gone down, infant mortality rate has gone down, literacy has gone up. Strangely, the 8-tier ranking has gone down from 10 to 11. Ease of business has also gone down. Mamata's West Bengal is no longer as free for business as it used to be. And incidents of murder have actually gone up, almost reaching to the international level, and riots have gone up, gone beyond India, the red line is India, but are now slowly going down. So why is there this difference? Going over to Tripura, the reason I went to Tripura is because of this project on citizenship that I have done with the help of the cluster. I asked, in the scale, are you a citizen of India? And there are 4 ways of measuring it. The bottommost was not, as you might expect, Kashmir. The bottommost was Tripura, and I was intrigued. Why should Tripura have such low level of citizenship? I found the answer. It doesn't quite belong here, but I'll say it anyway. Tripura was a tribal state. At independence, after partition, lots of Bengalis came from East Pakistan, settled down, and transformed Bengali the state language. Then, at the time of 71 war, more Bengalis came, and tribals became a small minority, were pushed deep inside. Now, these Bengalis, when they're asked, are you a citizen of India? They are not thinking about India as such. Tripura for them is Bhasha, where they're living now, but not Bari, not home. When they're looking for a girl, they're looking for a girl from Dhaka or Murshidabad or Manusri, and they are not feeling that sense of citizenship. Nor do the tribals feel at home. So that was the kind of state Tripura was, and Manik Thakkar, the chief minister, spent time to explain to us how he has managed to pull together the tribals as well as Bengalis into an intricate structure with a sub-state within the larger state, which gives a sense of belonging somewhat to tribals. But they also have their problem. The problem is that of language. The 27, I think 21 or 27 tribes don't share a language. They have, each valley has its own form of tribal language. So they're made up a patwa called Kakborok. And Kakborok is the second state language. But how to write Kakborok? If you write it in Bengali script, you fall into the clutches of the Bengalis. You have to write it in the Roman script, which is really nobody's script. So they have their own problems too. And in Tripura, we have found excellent results that incidence of murder has come down greatly, and riots have also come down greatly. So Manik Sarkar has developed a system of governance that at least works for now. Which brings me to my penultimate slide. What have we learned? In Nitish Kumar's government, women and backward classes have been empowered, successful bicycle and meal programs have been initiated, ban on alcohol has been instituted, and social service indicators have improved, ease of doing business ranking and 8-tier ranking have also improved. While murders have decreased, riots have increased. Mamata Banerjee's government focus on women's development and social welfare has increased, social service indicators have improved, the percentage of population below the poverty line has fallen, 8-tier ranking and per capita GSDP has improved, ease of doing business ranking has fallen, and incidence of murder and riots have increased. Manik Sarkar's government, scheduled tribes are empowered, institutions of local governance have been strengthened, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act was repealed, slight improvement in social service indicators, percentage of population below the poverty line has drastically fallen, ease of doing business ranking and SDI ranking had gone up. I mean, for the communist government to make Tripura open for business takes some doing. Per capita GSDP has increased, and the incidence of murder and riots have fallen considerably. To conclude, the analysis sheds light on policies, institutions, and processes that enhance governance. Arguments. Fundamentalism, ethnicity, conflict, and fragmentation, characters which are attributed as characteristic to non-Western politics, have political and not necessarily cultural and ethnic origins and are amenable to general explanation. What you do is take these complexities, find the social base, break them up as far as you can to units which would be universal, like individual choosing to vote or not, to cut your wrist or cut somebody's throat. They are making choices, so go down to the level of choices and come up again, discover the rules, and find how the connectivity of individual choices and rules produces order or fails to. The main findings are rule of law is critically conditional on ability of modern institutions to accommodate traditional values, effective implementation of social and economic reform, balancing of forces and co-optation for management of law and order, commitment of the state to individual rights as the cornerstone of democracy, I mean that's singular again, rather than the derivation of legitimacy from some predefined ideological, cultural or religious essence. An excellent Chinese model would have predicted if you start bringing this business to Bengal, Bengal will finally get into industrialization because agriculture can take you only that far. That's the theory, but it didn't work. Why did it not work? We have to go down to the level of individual to understand. Now, commitment of the state to individual rights, cornerstone of democracy, rather than the derivation of legitimacy from some predefined ideological, cultural or religious essence. This is what I call borrowed shoes and borrowed clothes. So you have to, that's the great gift of the Heidelberg cluster, the courage to think in terms of the basic of categories and cultural flow within Asia and Europe. What are the limitations of my kind of analysis? First, solid generalization across these three states is not possible. I have not found a magic formula which could transform Tripura, Bihar, West Bengal as if the differences didn't matter. Differences do matter, which is why we have an area studies institution. Something can be understood only in context, and some are cross-contextual. The combination of the two makes the political science of South Asia. Purely endogenous solutions to governance at the state level are limited in explanatory power, because what happens in the region is affected by what happens outside. Not just outside in India, but globally. Life today must have local, regional, national, and global parameters. And political science of South Asia has to be ensconced, therefore, in a cascade of general and comparative theories. Finally, changing nature of cognition in the era of identity politics. Today, in Kashmir or in Sukma forest, people think not in terms of only roti, kapra or makhan, but also in terms of their dignity. Now, how do you theorize that? Identity, that forbidden fantasy of the collective unconscious, is there in the room. How do you make sense of it is a challenge I'm leaving to my very worthy successor. Thank you all for your attention.
Our next distinguished speaker is Surya Kanta Mishra. He is the State Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, in West Bengal and member of the Politburo of that party. He's also the leader of the opposition in West Bengal, and he has previously served as a Minister of Health and Minister in charge of land and land reforms, panchayats, and rural development in the left-front government of West Bengal. It's yours.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset I would like to convey my gratitude to the South Asia Institute, Heidelberg University, for having organized this workshop and giving me the opportunity to be here. And I'm sure that I am not taller than you. And I assure you that I will not take much of your time and bring boredom to you of the very serious lectures that has preceded me and that will follow me. And since I have circulated, I believe the paper written, I have not written actually, I have given dictation, most of it, and giving some proof correction. So it's circulated and that speaks for itself. I'm not happy about the paper that I produced here. You see, I believe that more of discussion is necessary, interaction is necessary to come to a certain understanding that I think the best way of learning is to start understanding that we have learned nothing in our life and there will be no time when you achieve an absolute knowledge. So it's knowledge is a limited thing and we are in the process of learning. But speaking as such is not much of use, just in the sense that the best way of saying, I believe what Jose Marti said, that the best way of saying is doing, getting it done. That is the practice. Oh, sorry. So, actually, I am not habituated to speak to an audience like this. People a bit nervous to speak people like you. So, you should, guide me, you see, when going further and getting out of this. The speaking in memory. You won't understand this, that's a good thing. So, it has four parts in my paper. Part one starts with an international scenario. With a Marxist like me, they start on with the international thing. They believe that this country like India or Germany or whichever, the state like Bengal or Tripura or Bihar, they are very much in the world in this. And whatever happens in the world, it has to be taken into consideration if you want to discuss any problem, including the problem of governance in India, governing India. Who governs this world today? You see, that is something that we may debate on, but I am not going into that debate. But the thing is that this world going through a serious depression since 2008, a capitalist crisis, a systemic crisis, what we say, it is not mere a cyclical crisis, it is longer than the depression that we had in the last century. The Great Depression, whatever is known in that government, is longer and it is intense, more intense by its impact. And that has led to a situation that is reflected in the politics of the day in the world, where the rise of the right forces, the extreme right, the sovereignist forces, the fundamentalist forces, that has come to exist. If we go to 2014, when the European Parliament elections at least returned to 20% of the members they elected belong to the extreme right party, no fascist, this, that, and all that. And this is the time that we had a change in the government in India. And I'm not going into those details, the economic aspect of it, because I believe there are reasons to depend upon the economic factors, the structures, but structure, superstructure relation is some things are that, that influence each other, and I strongly believe that both these things have to be taken into consideration when you discuss problems like this we are discussing now. And sir, don't feel, you must tell me where to end. I'm not looking at the watch. So I sincerely request the chair to have something. Oh, still. So, anyhow, that is something that because the crisis that was created because of the depression in the market, depression in the demand, that tried to overcome by subprime lending, that led to, the banks and the insurance companies to collapse, and the corporate insolvency turned into sovereign insolvency when the country became insolvent to pay back their debt. And this was a prescription that was prescribed that no government, neither government of India or government of UK or USA, they opted for it. It is the force of the global finance capital, international finance capital, to sustain that they have taken this strategy that failed. And that finally led to what is called austerity measures, which further depressed the demand, and that finally led to the situation when because austerity measures followed the, what is called this, bailing out these banks, the financial institutions. You pay public money to bail out these people who have created all these nonsense, and give them tax salaries and retirement benefits and all that. And it's the people money, and then ask people to accept austerity. And that is the austerity measure. That really created more problem, setting in another cycle of further deepening the crisis. And that had to make the G20 to review the strategy, and they decided finally, as you know, that by 2009, no more this bailout can be repeated in future. The government should not go for bailout. What they should go for is bailing in. And bailing in means that the government does not bail out these the bankrupt institutions. And what exactly they do is what is witnessed in India today. It's not that India is happening for the first time. It has started in Greece, in Cyprus, and the G20 has set up one financial stability board, FSB, what they call, and they prescribed something that the government of India has accepted by 2014, and has already drafted a bill that has yet to see. It has yet to come to appear in the legislation, the parliament, but this bill is called, it has a long name, but I can't help it. It is Financial Resolution Deposit Insurance Corporation. A corporation has to be set up at the national level to ensure a financial resolution, that means a financial stability, so that nothing of that sort happens because in India or anywhere. And so financial resolution and depositors, deposit insurance scheme. The depositors, you see, their deposit has to be insured and the corporation has to be set up. And that what has prompted the government to do it is what prompted Europe or United States or others to bail out these, this institution is that in India there is around 11 lakh crores. That lakh crores is, you want to understand, 110 million crore. You can make it to billion or trillion?
Trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars. So like, say X trillion of dollars, say 10 trillion of dollars roughly, is what is non-performing asset. And this non-performing asset, that means the bank has loaned something and is not getting it back. And that non-performing asset, that 70% of it is with the corporates. Hardly 10 corporates. So the corporates have to be solved. Actually, the corporates are not returning money to the bank. So the government is not able to bail out, because the bail out, they are saying they have to change the strategy.
It is actually 5 lakh crores, which comes to $500 billion, which is 1/4 of India's GDP, roughly.
Yes, so that is good. I think you will success. When you speak to, go to those statistics. What I am trying to make is, you see, is that the major percent, 70% of the non-performing asset is with the corporate, they are not paying back, and the government cannot recover this the money that has been loaned to this corporate. And what they do is now demonetize 500 and 100 rupees currency notes, and they say that PSC will unearth the black money, will do these counterfeit currencies, will check this terrorist activities and all these things, corruption and all that, big water things. Anyhow, but the purpose is that when these 500 or 100 rupees currency, these were demonetized, around more than 20 lakh crores or something, maybe trillions and billions or whatever. They were deposited in the bank. In the process, all the black money, whatever there, because it's hardly 3-4% of the entire currency is in the black in any country, because they stash the money in Mauritius route and many other places outside to recover, and the government earlier promised that we will bring back those monies. They have not got back anything. Rather, money is going out from the country. I'm not going into those details, but what happened is that this white money, black money turned white, and the bank now is stashed with the fund, and you no need of, because the currency that was available in lieu of this demonetized note, only 1/3 of the currency that has been demonetized. That means even if you have a deposit in the bank, you cannot withdraw it. That this financial resolution insurance, deposit insurance corporation will ensure now is that, you see, the banks have got a relief of sight, they don't have any problem, they have the currencies. So if the banks fail, what this corporation will do, they will provide an insurance if the bank fails, like collapse, up to a limit of say 1 lakh, that means 100,000 rupees only. If you have more than that, you see, you may not get it. That is what is bearing in the savings of the middle or savings of the middle classes, or even poorer people, those maybe others also. Whatever is there is built in to save the government from the crisis, and that is the relations of the international financial crisis and the international, I think, be it Greece or Cyprus or India, that is the situations we are in. And that has led to globally, politically, it is reflected in the rise of the right, whether in the globally with the Europe or United States, or for that matter Britain or India also. That is the rise of the right. That you see the most strident slogan of chauvinist calls and fundamentalist and this, communal forces raising their head, and that is challenge to the governance today. Because the Constitution of India, 1947, 15th of August, India became independent, and in the 20th January 1950, the people of India has given, the Constituent Assembly has given to itself a constitution which defines India as to be a sovereign democratic republic. Two more words were added subsequently, the 42nd Amendment to Indian Constitutions during the emergency. But there are words added, but secular and socialist. That's a great thing. Sometimes you like to put the word socialist anywhere you like. So, so it makes now the full term is the sovereign, democratic, secular, socialist republic. So, each of these words mock at us today. That is where we stand. I believe that is the everything is unexpectedly being challenged. Whether globally or in India, it is the most, I reiterate, that it is the most reactionary, most chauvinist, most authoritarian governance of the crony capitalism. There is no more a competitive capitalism that led to an era of enlightenment, renaissance, and very revolutionary industrial capitalist development. That is those are days, none of those days. What we have is more primitive nature of capital accumulation, and that leads to in the superstructure a rise of the right and the polarization in that line. That happens, creating a delusion. I am not going into the epistemological questions involved in it, but more serious things, I think. And there is in that context, that is the third part of my paper that I discuss about the left-led governments. The 34 years in Bengal left-front government, and preceding that 2 short-term united front government, those were removed by using Article 356 of our constitutions, President's prerogative to dismiss any government. But they could not dismiss the left-front government for 34 years because that more than 2/3 majority. All this, I think, in the history of parliamentary democracy in the world, people asked us, what happened to you after you had been there for 34 years and you were nowhere now? I said that it's nothing, it doesn't appear something to be very miraculous to me, but what is miraculous to me? I always wondered, I don't find any reason to wonder why we are not there. I wondered that how that for 34 years, for 7 consecutive terms, the government returned to the office with more than 2/3 majority is something unfortunate in parliamentary democracy, in a constitutional democracy. The experience I am not going to narrate. This the Kerala government, because it was the state where the first communist government led by E.M.S. Ramapal was formed in the second general election of 1957. The second general election, but it was not allowed to stay for more than 2 years, like the subsequent United Front government. And of course, now also they have a left democratic front government in Kerala. Almost alternate term, the left democratic front government and the united front democratic government were 2 fronts, one led by Congress, one led by CPIM, and they almost every 5 years they changed their course. Tripura is again, it is in the 3.5 decade that this government is in the office, except for some interruption of one term, and this left government has been stable. The left governments all the left governments have started with the land reform. Because if you want to have real democracy of the people, that is, the excellent presentation that was made before the speeches were we have started with the speeches. What they want and what they do not want, you see, people, that is very important. If that you want to see that the democracy does not mean an elected parliamentary government simply. It is not simply the right to vote gives you a democracy. It is at best an informal democracy itself. Whether what is important is that the participation, the participatory democracy. It's not simply representative democracy that makes it democracy. So what we tried is to make it a participatory democracy, to ensure that the centralization of the land, particularly in the rural area, that is within the power of the state, could be addressed by divesting the land, distributing among the landlords and the land court, and defining the tenants. And I'm not going into the numbers, around 1.1 million of people given land, 1.1 million acres, and again 1 year wants to turn into hectares. Those figures are there in the paper. I'm going into the statistics, but the land redistribution, the tenants' security, giving them land, non-land input, bit of irrigation, bit of finance from the cooperatives, and all this, that has resulted in a decade, more than a decade of the highest rate of agricultural growth in India, in compound growth rate, if you consider that. And the highest is the rice producing state, the highest jute producing state, second highest potato producing state, highest vegetable producing state, highest fish producing state. I am not going into those things, the productions and all that impact it has if you can somehow minimize the pre-capitalist relations in the society and can start with the redistribution. And the redistribution of land leads to redistribution of democracy. If the centralized assets, if the assets are centralized in few hands, the democracy remains centralized somewhere, because they decide and people say we do want it or we do not want it. But the basic fact that the land reform, there is regular elections of the local bodies and giving them decentralized powers to see that this works, the participatory democracy works. And that, the education, health, giving priority, universalization and these, that, literacy, all these things, that, and of course, a secular culture that no communal forces could ever dare to raise their head in situations like this. That, I mean, is in essence, but I should say, I will not elaborate those chapters because that is eating the statistics are there. I am not going into those details. If anybody would like to ask questions, maybe I will respond to them. But I will say that these were not enough. In our constitutional structure, the center and state relations are such that in name it is called federal, but in essence it is unitary. Most of the powers are in the hand of the central government, the federal government that you have here, for example. And that is why the, I think I am better without this microphone, because they don't allow me to use microphone most of the time. So I have to shout, and I think I am not able to belong to it. So but where the stagnation started is what somebody is taking credit of returning 400 acres of land. Yeah, I don't think anywhere in the history of civilization where 90% of a manufacturing automobile industry is 90% completed, and they will demolish this factory and start doing vegetable cultivation there. Is civilization is something we could not expect. I'm sorry, I cannot accept it. But thing is that the Supreme Court judgment has clearly said that since there is no industry there and the car factory is not working and that they are not willing to have industry there, now the land can be returned. Nobody contested it. That is the thing. It is not that because I remember, I know all these details, I mean legal and other things, I am not going to be. Thing is that land distribution, agricultural growth, the private sector growth is not enough. It has its own limitation. We had, I remember, international seminars. We asked all the experience of the socialist country, the non-socialist, other countries, I mean all the, from the London School of Economics to South African people, I mean, I don't know, Vietnam and who not, to understand what after this land reform, what after agriculture, and we come to the conclusion there cannot be other options beyond going for manufacturing industry. To surplus labor in agriculture has to be accommodated. And that is the history of civilization. From agriculture, based on agricultural growth, primary sector growth, you have enormous industrial rate, more manufacturing, that will get more jobs and all that. I mean, that is the way that the history of civilization gets in. And there, certain mistakes, certain errors, certain wrong estimates about the peaceables, some had lack of patience, something went wrong, and that led to, and there are many other factors, I have not go there are external factors, many people are not happy that the central government has to depend on the left, and I mean the First United UPA government has to depend on the left. And it is because the left was there that the right to information, the right to education, the right to food, I mean the environment, the Forest Right Act, and the 100 days, the employment guarantee schemes and all these. The left have constantly challenged, champion this cause, for this cause, and utilized all the strength it had, whatever little strength it had, to see that these legislations go through. And even before the Food Security Act was passed, the left government introduced 2 rupees a rice, 2 rupees per kilogram of rice or wheat, I mean, to the people below what is so-called below poverty line. But these are the left, these are the things that the left stand for. And besides that, it is the left government who had the first Human Rights Commission among the other states, before the government of India did it. It is the left government who said the first, what is called the Lokayuta. Lokayuta is called as somebody like ombudsman having extraordinary power to investigate into something, some corruption involving a minister. And Lokayuta in Bengal has right to give, to include the chief minister. I mean, if the chief minister, he can be proceeded against by the Bhagavad. So there are many things that the left has done. As Trent Slater has done something, or learned many things from others' experience also. But it is a report that is working for an alternative. I believe that whatever strength left has is not enough. Is not enough with India to counter the rise of the right, and the broadest coalition of democratic and secular forces need to be forged for a common united understanding, a program that is necessary to see that the India or for that matter anywhere in the world, this is something that has to be taken up, because otherwise all the republics anywhere in the world are under threat. I am sure I am not going further into it. I concluded with my paper with the few words about the, we have a, starting with the global vision, we have a global vision. We believe,
5 minutes.
5 minutes, oh yes. Please, I'm very happy when you would say that, you just say, 3 minutes, I'm very happy. So, I ended with what I said that we propose to have a left democratic alternative. We have digital program, I'm not doing. That means the right to food, the right to shelter, the right to employment, the right to education, the right to health, fundamental things, not asking for many things. And then they said, you see that, what is his name, please? You have given a name? Huh?
Move
The one who speaks mouth wide open.
Yes, a nice thing. So, whatever he was liking, he says, we like this, we want this, that is what we want. This is the basic thing. I mean, the left democratic alternative for the country. I am not taking of people of Kerala and West Bengal. I tell you simply saying that these are very difficult to compare. Kerala is the most advanced state. Going by social indicators, it can only be compared with the most developed countries in the world. By going by infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, literacy, gender gap in literacy, and all those things. I am not going into those things. I mean, Bengal is a state which is related to all its culture and habits and governance from the permanent settlement thing. I told you, many of you may not understand what is permanent settlement meant by in the colonial rule. I mean, a very plural society. I mean, the eastern region that will fight because of that permanent settlement during the colonial rule, land settlement that colonialists made and all that. So, Tripura is a northeastern state, you know. There is part of India where the agriculture is, good amount of development of capitalism in agriculture. There are more pre-capitalist relations in the other part of India. If you go to Tripura, you can find pre-capitalist, pre-feudal, you know, there is shifting cultivation, like that. So, Jumia is what we call. So, these societies are different. So, it's very difficult to compare in a diverse situation, and that the diversity is the source of strength of India. And that diversity is something that is under attack now. They want to iron out all differences in one this or that slogan. That will not strengthen India or anywhere, any country in the world. What we need is the diversity we have in the world. So we believe strongly that the left democratic secular forces all over the world, all over the country, every country has to take this challenge, and doing the part of India will be there in this battle, I believe. Is the only to convey this message to you that I am here. I'm sorry, I have no academicians, you do not take me very seriously. When I speak, it's like a public speaker, like anyway, those people may accept it, we may not accept it. You challenge it, confront it, ask for it. Maybe then I could respond to it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks also for taking the time. Our third distinguished speaker is Mr. Swapnan Dasgupta. He's a member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha. He's a journalist, and he has held influential positions at the Daily Telegraph, and that's wrong. The Indian Express and India Today. He's recently appearing often on Indian TV in connection with politics, and he's recently been awarded the Padma Bhushan Civilian Award of the Republic of India.
Thank you, Professor Kluna. First, let me express my sincere gratitude to Rahul Mukherjee for inviting me. I understand this is a special seminar. It's not a transient seminar, as Professor Mitra pointed out. And there's a culture associated. And I think most of us who had any dealings with academia, tangentially or directly, would acknowledge that it's the creation of these traditions which keeps universities alive. In India, we have a wonderful word which David Carradine called ornamentalism, part of which is the pageantry of it all. And I think pageantry is a very important part in upholding society, keeping it alive, and it does reflect certain of the values which I at least personally believe in. I want to start off from the rather elaborate theoretical construct which Professor Mitra had pointed out, but taking off from one observation issue, using a very interesting imagery of the lifts, the elevators, whereby the elites go up and down, the discarded ones are jettisoned. I think much of the problem in India today, contemporary India, arises from the reluctance of very people who should be on the downward lift to actually enter it. And equally, a squeamishness on the part of those who should be going up to actually go in there and undertake that responsibility. So much of that confusion arises there. There is, in the case, and I'm going to talk about Modi and the politics of his politics of governance. I didn't circulate a paper, but I believe it was done. It was rather at the last minute, so it may not have got to it. So I'll crave your indulgence and repeat some of those points. I take off from very recent developments. In March 2017, we had elections to the largest state in India, which really accounts for, it's really a huge, which accounts for 80 parliamentary seats. And at the heart of it, I mean, its political importance has often been somewhat overstated, but I don't think anyone will ever understate it. Well, in that election was very crucial. It was crucial for a number of reasons. Because after the 2014 general elections, there was a perception, notably among the intelligentsia, notably in the media, notably among certain foreign diplomats, etc., not so much among investors, etc., that what we are seeing here is a very transient phenomenon. That here is a person who's a bit of a passing show. And India will soon revert to normalcy once again. And that's a very strong point of view which was made. The importance of and Uttar Pradesh was supposed to be a litmus test to demonstrate the efficacy of this model. It demonstrated quite the opposite. What it actually demonstrated was that there was a phenomenal degree of popular backing, both for the party, which the Prime Minister represents, but most important, for the Prime Minister. And this was coupled along with a lot of local election victories in places like Orissa, Maharashtra, and Delhi, which all told sort of suggested that there was something happening. Why are people voting for the Prime Minister? Was it because they've got this sort of great man fascination? Are they sort of attracted by his sort of machismo or something like that, 52-inch chest, as some people say? That is a facile explanation. To my mind, there has been something which has been happening in this country. And we've heard colored one perception of what is being happening in the country from the earlier speaker, but I would suggest certain other things which have been happening in this country. Now let's get back to this whole thing about what was the expectation? And this comes to the puppet show again. What did people expect? What do they want? What do they do? In this case, in 2014, what was the prevailing image of Narendra Modi, which got him elected? And they won seats right from Ladakh to Kanyakumari. In fact, they won both the Ladakh seat and the Kanyakumari seat. The question is, what were these? Now, there were different people who viewed him in different ways. Some saw him as a strong leader who would undo the policy of paralysis and the sense of drift India had experienced in the final 3 years of the Manmohan Singh government. Others, more committed to the BJP's core ideology, saw him as a sort of latter-day Shivaji who would restore Hindu pride. Others saw him as a backward caste leader who had made it good, a variant of the sort of log cabin to White House story. And finally, there were those who wanted purposeful governance of the type Modi had provided in Gujarat over 30 years. And these were different impulses, and what they were linked together by this what became a remarkably catchy slogan in hindsight, a clever copywriter's prerogative. With the Gudam Achhe Din, which is the good times. The good times are here. So it was these different impulses which were bound together by this good time. Now, of course, the good times is a double-edged sword. You know, you create lofty expectations, and then one day it'll like hang on the sort of Damocles around your neck, and underperformance can be rewarded by a vicious reaction. It has happened very recently. Those who, for instance, preach the maximum amount of lofty ethical values, a minor corruption scandal can unsettle such a government because the expectations are different from other. Now, what was so therefore, we had Modi coming to power in 2014 on the sense of a very, very dizzying expectations. And from the very first day, the government was very mindful that delivery and governance was at the key to their re-election. It was not something that was added accidentally. It was just painfully apparent from day one. Now, it was complicated by one thing. There was a certain miscalculation of the inheritance. Now, in the run-up to the 2014 elections, and I participated in a lot of them, there was a sort of assumption that a combination of political stability and responsive, transparent, and a business-friendly government would propel domestic investment and create conditions for robust, sustainable economic growth. The catchy, almost Thatcherite slogan of minimum government, maximum government was based on the assumption that an unshackled private sector would lead the way in fast-tracking growth, which the government, playing the role of facilitator and guarantor and responsible finances, would just carry. In the first year of its term, the Modi government often conveyed the impression of having discarded the disruption in favor of a one-step-at-a-time incrementalism. Unfortunately for it, the private sector's response was not terribly encouraging. People heard about the thing, how they were over-leveraged with the banks, and they were crippled by the over-optimism they had shown around 2012 and crumbled. Whatever it is, the quantum of private sector capital investment just did not take off in 2014 or 2015. It still hasn't taken up really into 2016. To add to this were the political complications which happened, this resulting from the BJP's electoral defeat in Bihar and Delhi in 2016. Now, both of which created impression in some quarters that the Modi government was quite fragile in nature. So, by 2015, by mid-2000, the government had to undertake certain very important shifts in its priorities and approaches. While improving the ease of doing business and make in India remained the priority, the government became increasingly reliant, firstly, on foreign direct investment as an alternative to sluggish domestic capital investment. To this was added a very, very Keynesian approach of reviving the economy through massive but targeted public expenditure. You know, the amount of public expenditure which has been actually undertaken by the government is quite staggering, and it defies earlier expectations that what we are seeing is a retreat of the state sector from the economy. But my argument is that this was not necessarily an ideological or evidence of lack of it, but it was a response to a particular crisis which had a particular set of problems which they had undertaken, and this was their pragmatic response. But there was another thing which the BJP was very mindful of. That, and this is something which they learned from their experience of the 2014 Vajpayee government of 1998 to 2004. And that the good governance doesn't always necessarily translate into good politics. This point was further driven home by the defeats in Bihar. Now, therefore, there were certain steps which the BJP in 2015. First was, I have always spoken about this massive public expenditure. Secondly, it undertook a series of steps aimed at expanding its social base. The only way it could counter a possible anti-BJP grand alliance in future, it was decided that while capacity building would continue at a feverish pace, the greatest amount of political emphasis would be attached to government initiatives aimed at the poorer sections of the population. You see, traditionally the BJP's social center of gravity has always been the middle class. It has percolated upwards and downwards based on the middle classes. That's always been its impulse. What was basically done, and this was the defeat in Bihar and Delhi were very, very important milestones in this respect, was that they decided to shift the center of gravity lower down the economic ladder. And this was a very important transition which went undetected in most circles. Earlier, the BJP had effected a very important step by moving away from, for instance, the upper caste to the OBCs. This was very marked in places like Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and even to Uttar Pradesh. This was an equally important strategic shift which took place. Now, these, I think, are some of the backgrounds, the political sort of background which we should keep in mind when we analyze facets of the Modi government. Now, for the sake of convenience, I have divided Modi's record of government, his approach to governance, into sort of certain rather simple heads, which I'm sure some people can improve on it, can modify it, which takes care of the basic features of it. The first important thing is this constant show of activity. And I think this is important. In a speech to the Niti Aayog, the successor body to the old planning commission, Modi actually said, if India is to meet the challenge of change, mere incremental progress is not enough. A metamorphosis is needed. That is why my vision for India is rapid transformation, not gradual evolution. Now, this is something a lot of people say. I mean, sort of grandstanding is quite familiar in the case of politicians. I mean, Nehru said it all the time. So why should we believe this for Modi rather than if we didn't believe it in someone else? I mean, the interesting thing is that down the line, it's being replicated by other people. In a speech in Calcutta last week, Amit Shah, the party president, went and said, we are not interested in reforms, we are interested in transformation. So a certain line, and immediately after winning that huge mandate in Uttar Pradesh, the first speech Modi made in the party headquarters was, we must now pave the way for a new India. Now, these are sort of lofty ideas that I I don't believe have been sufficiently internalized as yet by the political class, whose priorities necessarily are always, by definition, short-term. In the case of the BJP, Hindu nationalism, which is the recovery of Hindu self-esteem and dominance after prolonged loss of national sovereignty, has always been the most recurrent driving force. This sense of mission has predictably been modified by the exigencies of political priorities and the quest for political power. However, the idea of a new India or a resurgent India has always held out by implication a very, very powerful agreed belief. So, for the Modi governance, governance is the instrument to effect real change. And he has taken a personal view in this. It's often been said that this is a very centralized government. I disagree. I think in a sense what has happened is it's a deeply, closely monitored and extremely closely supervised government. There is a slight difference in it. I think what we are seeing today is that almost there is an oversight of every single ministry which is being conducted at a rigorous level which has never been done. So the sense of accountability of the ministers and the departments to the Prime Minister has now become an absolute right. And there is, in that same way, equal determination to insulate this process from other political pressures. Now this is a more touchy area, because normally if you try and insulate decision making from other political pressures, legitimate or illegitimate, it can create complications. But in this case, what he's been doing is he's been leveraging his own personal reputation and undoubted dominance to insulate it both from other things, business pressure, as well as, most important, RSS pressures. The extent to which the RSS today doesn't get its way is also quite marked. So there's also a sense of urgency which he's giving, that we are in a hurry. We are racing against the clock. This demonetization decision, controversial as it may be, is a classic example. The original demonetization exercise was supposed to be from January 2nd. The date for that day was January 2nd or 3rd of 2017. Instead, it was brought forward without any warning on November the 8th, 2016. So, Modi's astonishing sense of urgency in this case stemmed from two factors. First, he was convinced that secrecy couldn't be maintained. And this was a decision whose integrity would depend on absolute secrecy. So, no chances, even if you're underprepared, go ahead and do it. He was prepared to take risks with the government's underpreparedness on account of his unwavering belief that demonetization would be enthusiastically approved by the electorate despite the personal inconvenience and hardships of people. His optimism was, and I'm basing it almost entirely on personal conversation, his optimism was based entirely on the conviction that ordinary Indians were willing to sacrifice if convinced it was for the national good. He has taken one leaf from Gandhi and applied it here. True or false, correct or incorrect, I'm leaving that. But I'm just saying, look at it in terms of the methodology and how the mind was working. The second part, which is very important in terms of identifying how these strategies of governance, is popular participation and connect. Now, from his very days in Gujarat, he has been convinced that for its success, the development process must involve either passive or active popular participation. Now, obviously, there are many facets of government which are completely top-down. But there is an unending search in his case for schemes and flagship schemes that involve the active participation and involvement of the citizenry. Now, the demonetization exercise was obviously the biggest one. It affected every Indian citizen. I don't think there's been anything. Every Indian citizen in some way or the other was affected by demonetization. They had to change their notes, even if they didn't actively do it through banks, they did it somewhere. But here was something where they had an active role. And he obviously sees that this is the thing. You must involve. The government must somehow get people, reach down to them. So make them feel a part of the process itself. Then there were these schemes. I'll just give you one. I'm not going into a laundry list of the ones, but certain important ones which are noted for this. And the first one is really the Jan Dhan Yojana, which is really the financial inclusion. Persuading people to open bank accounts, getting people to voluntarily abandon their subsidies, all of which, in terms of monetary return, have actually yielded a huge surplus for the government and have huge benefits. You see, then there is the larger issue of what is called the Swachh Bharat, the Clean India campaign. Now, it's been greeted by the degrees of skepticism everywhere, and I'm sure everybody, points out some garbage dump or something where, it's still as bad as ever. But I think this is the first time we've seen, again taking a leaf from Gandhi, where you actually put hygiene, personal and public hygiene, at the centerpiece of your political. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to actually broaden your base to suggest that you are more than just a political figure. And if you look at his radio addresses, he never touches a political theme. It's about how people are preparing for exams, how are you going to spend your holidays, are you feeding birds water in the summer? In other words, there is a profile being created of a man who is a little above politics. And this touches on to this thing, which is why you are seeing that in a lot of places you're getting the thing, the vote is not for the BJP, the vote is for Modi. And in a presidentialized election, which general elections are, this is going to fetch it. The next feature of which is also very important in his thing is the use of technology. Now, he's been a geek. He's been a techno freak for a long time. It's been used. And this is also very interesting again in terms of relating to people. And again, boils down to the question, what do Indians want? I am convinced that linking through technology has been a super hit in his case in terms of establishing a connect between Modi and the younger generation. It's been a wonderful thing. It's really transformed his image. It's transformed the image of what the government should do. It's also transformed the image of the political class from being complete fuddy-duddies into something far more energetic and dynamic. Then there is this question of capacity building. Now, I'm not going to go into this huge, but the most important facet of this, which is worth noticed, is that by 2018, we're going to get into a situation where every village in India is going to have power connectivity. To my mind, that's a tectonic change. It's the multiplied effects of this. It's going to be something phenomenal. The multiplied effects of this is just going to be enormous. It is often said that, okay, the government hasn't really created jobs. True. I think it's a fair criticism to make. That is the job of the government is to create jobs. But I think what is equally important is to notice to what extent measures such as rural electrification and other measures which are like creating what is called the family sector have actually insulated India from possible social tensions which would have arisen in the event that we'd gone in for a completely public sector oriented. It's a thought. I don't think there is any conclusive evidence. I'm not going to get into it. And the final one, which I think is the two final ones, the last two ones. The first is the question of transparency and anti-corruption. Now, this has been, again, a very, very important part of Modi's whole attitude to government. Growing up, demonetization was projected as that. And I think what he has done is he has certainly created enough impediments in the path of people who want to be willfully outside the tax compliance network. It's not foolproof. Whereas India had a completely porous system, he's made it much more difficult. Now, how this is going to translate into a backlog of cases and how investigation, etc., is another matter altogether. But today, for instance, we are seeing in the next year, we are going to see the increase. We are going to see 1 crore, 10 million. Nearly 10 million extra people who are filing income tax in 1 year. Now the relief that gives to the people who already pay taxes is immeasurable. It actually insulates you from this. And the final point about his strategy of governance is the mobilization of the diaspora. I need to go into that, but I think for the first time what he's done is he's involving overseas Indians into this mission of becoming instruments of change in India. Part of that is also to do with the initial negative publicity which he got, the projection of very negative agents, and to counter that by involving Indians overseas in the goodwill mission. So these are just some of the facets of it. It's a massively, what we are seeing is a big transformation exercise in the culture of governance. You know, so to call it left or right in this case is very, very difficult. We are seeing he has combined a top-down approach with grassroots political mobilization, lofty idealism with electoral expediency, statism with market impulses, self-help with state welfare, and Swadeshi, that is indigenous, with the global. Far from being a transient phenomenon, he has in a short span of 3 years completely altered the political landscape. His governance, I believe, is still work in progress, and much longer time span will be needed to comprehend the full impact of it. I just quote the objective which he has. Now some people would say it's sinister, some people would say it's something which a very senior BJP leader told me when I said something about change. He said, Modi is not there to manage India, he's there to change it. Now how far his governance model fits into that, and how far he can get over this deep-rooted skepticism of Indian intelligence, etc., is the other question.
Thanks to the speakers for these very inspiring talks. I would want to collect this and then give the speakers the opportunity to respond. May just at this point everyone raise their hands who plan to make a contribution to this discussion. Okay. Yeah. Then I will just start from front to back, and then Mark Rosenberg will go first.
I have a question to
Would you mind taking up?
yeah. I can get a question to Swapan I was recently at a meeting of the Neue Zürcher Zeitung, and the local man from New Delhi had come to give us a lecture. And he characterized Modi's style as in the